Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to today's afternoon Bible study and devotional. Today we're going to be jumping into Deuteronomy chapter 24. So I invite you to grab a Bible and read along with me as we read through Deuteronomy chapter 24. And before we get to that, I want to talk about some of the things that we read yesterday, the regulations concerning worship, and some miscellaneous regulations. That was kind of what we talked about, and those miscellaneous regulations is what will be continuing today through chapter 24. Um, and this is like the second last message that Moses gives to the Israelite people. So we're I don't know if we're nearing the end of it, but this has been a lot longer of a speech than the first one. Um, but the first one yesterday, the very first sentence, regulations regarding worship, threw me right off. It was not what I was expecting. Um, so if a man's testicles are crushed, or his penis is cut off, he may not be admitted to the assembly. And if a person is of illegitimate birth, neither he nor his descendants for 10 generations may be admitted to the assembly. I was really, really confused at why this would have been um, like disqualifying for entering into like a church assembly. That really, really threw me off yesterday. So I did a little bit of extra research, brought it to my home church, and we had some discussions and stuff about that. And it looks as if like the king thing was probably right yesterday with the kings would do that and crush the testicles and stuff like that of male servants so that they wouldn't sleep with their concubines and their wives and stuff. So there was that little bit of like that, but there was also forms of worship that looked like that. So there was a god, I can't remember what the god's name was, but that was one of the things that they would do as an extreme form of worship. And then like that illegitimate person is essentially a because I am, so that one kind of hit me. I'm like, why wouldn't I be allowed in the church? Back then it would have suggested likely would have suggested that a relationship outside of the Israelites would have happened. So it would have been combining those two different gods in one household, which would have already been talked against. And it would have been like, yeah, so these people, they can't be coming in with their other gods. Is, I think, the reasoning behind that. And that was after quite a bit of kind of confusion and stuff. And Jesus ends up redeeming the eunuch and basically Ethiopia, because of a eunuch, got to know God quite a bit. And the Ethiopian Christians have a lot to thank for a eunuch and that whole redemption stuff happening there. So some interesting stuff. That was confusing and really caught me off guard. And then a lot of the regulations yesterday, it was interesting. A lot of it, I ended up pulling out like 5 different things, but they kind of jumped all over the place. So it was a pretty heavy, dense second half as well. So I'm looking forward to continuing. So without further ado, Miscellaneous Regulations Part 2 from Deuteronomy chapter 24. Suppose a man marries a woman, but she does not please him, having discovered something wrong with her. He writes a document of divorce, hands it over to her, and sends her away from his house. When she leaves his house, she is free to marry another man. But if the second husband also turns against her and writes a document of divorce, hands it to her, and sends her on her way, or if he dies, the first husband may not marry her again, for she has been defiled. That would be detestable to the Lord. You must not bring guilt upon the land the Lord your God is giving you as a special possession. A newly married man must not be drafted into the army or be given any other official responsibilities. He must be free to spend 1 year at home, bringing happiness to his wife that he has married. It is wrong to take a set of millstones, or even just the upper millstone, as security for a loan, for the owner uses it to make a living. If anyone kidnaps a fellow Israelite and treats him as a slave or sells him, the kidnapper must die. In this way, you will purge evil from among you. In all cases involving serious skin disease, be careful to follow the instructions of the Levitical priests. Obey all the commands I have given them. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam as you were coming out of Egypt. If you lend anything to your neighbor, do not enter his house to pick it up. To pick up the item he is giving as security. You must wait outside while he goes in and brings it out to you. If your neighbor is poor and gives you his cloak as security for a loan, do not keep the cloak overnight. Return the cloak to its owner by sunset, so he can stay warm through the night and bless you. And stay warm through the night and bless you. And the Lord your God will count you as righteous. Never take advantage of poor and destitute laborers, whether they are fellow Israelites or foreigners living in your towns. You must pay them their wages each day before sunset, because they are poor and they are counting on it. If they don't, they might cry out to the Lord against you, and it would be counted against you as sin. Parents must not be put to death for the sins of their children, nor their children for the sins of their parents. Those deserving to die must be put to death for their own crimes. True justice must be given to foreigners living among you, and to orphans. And you must never accept a widow's garment as security for her debt. Always remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God redeemed you from your slavery. That is why I have given you this command. When you are harvesting your crops and forget to bring in a bundle of grain from your field, don't go back and get it. Leave it for the foreigner, orphan, and widow. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all you do. When you beat the olives from your olive tree, don't go over the boughs twice. Leave the remaining olives for the foreigners, orphans, and widows. When you gather the grapes in your vineyard, don't glean the vines after they are picked. Leave the remaining grapes for the foreigners, orphans, and widows. Remember that you were once slaves in the land of Egypt. That is why I'm giving you this command. May God add a blessing to the reading of Deuteronomy chapter 24. All right. So there's a lot of good things in here, but there is something that foreshadows Christ, and that's actually verse 1. So suppose a man marries a woman, but she does not please him. Having discovered something wrong with her, he writes a document of divorce, hands it to her, and sends her away from the home. So Jesus actually referenced this legal standard regarding divorce when he teaches that a man who divorces his wife is causing her to commit adultery in Matthew 5:31 to 32. Yeah, I was going to say, then she's defiled, so you can't be married again. Which, that was kind of interesting. And yeah, Jesus kind of says that too, which is interesting. But one, she is free to leave, so that's a big thing. So one of the issues with that is like, oh, something's wrong, so I'm going to divorce you, and then you can't have remorse. You gotta that deal is done. If you let her go, or if she wants, like, essentially, if it's an abusive relationship too, and you just say something out of anger and she takes it as a chance to escape, you done messed up. You're not getting her back, right? Stay true to the commitment, and even if you do break it, because there are times when divorce might be necessary, you got to stick to your commitments. So it was a way to protect women back then. Um, this one, you really got to step back into the shoes of the people back then and how things worked. But yeah, it was a way to protect women. I really do think that, from other abusive relationships. And imagine having a husband going, "Oh, something's wrong with you. Forget that. We're getting a divorce." And then coming back after another failed relationship and be like, "Hey, I remember how I was abusive to you and I said something was wrong with you and made you leave the house and left you, you know, want to come back?" Like, that just sounds so abusive and manipulative mentally, emotionally, and probably physically too. So it's kind of protecting the woman from that. And then I also really like verse 5. Verse 5, I think, is pretty phenomenal. Uh, a newly married man must not be drafted into war. So not that we draft people into war, but like if one of my volunteers or whatever, they get married, I make sure that I give them time off so that they can be with their wife. If someone has a kid, give them time off so that they can be the kid and develop that stuff. That relationship side of things is so important, and God lifts that up here too. Like, to take that time away to build into each other in this new married relationship and to learn the ins and outs. It's so important. So it's cool that God lifts that up. Um, when doing a loan or trying to, like, do whatever, don't take what they do for a living. It made me think of a lot of times now, like if someone drives for Uber, you don't take their car as payment, because then you're just not only hurting them, but then they're not going to be able to make more money. It's, don't take away their means to making a living. Then if anyone kidnaps a fellow Israelite and treats him as a slave or sells them, the kidnapper must die. Um, so don't sell and trade your neighbors. It's bad that needs to be spelt out, but that needs to be spelt out. I'm glad that we're not really living in that time anymore. Um, Something else that I thought was interesting is the Levites, who are the priests. So if there's a serious skin disease, you bring it to the Levites. So they're acting as like doctor and spiritual leader. That's pretty heavy, right? That's a lot of responsibility for them, and two very different hats that they had to wear. But yeah, that's how it was. Um, and then just respecting things. Like, if you're in a position where you can loan things out, treat whoever is taking the loan with respect and dignity. Don't go barging into their house. And if they only have the clothes on their back, take it. But then, like, before they go to bed, just give them their clothes back so that they don't freeze during the night. Like, there's so much love and care and understanding even in among power dynamics. Treat the poor like they matter. Never, in like 14 really hammers down on that. Never take advantage of poor and destitute laborers. Never take advantage. So part of that is crooked, like, owners who go, do this job. And it's like, don't just pay them when the job's done. Pay them at the end of the day. That's not something that we do, but like in today's world, but like at that agreed time to pay them, Make sure that they get paid. And if you are working for a boss that refuses to do that, maybe it's time to switch jobs because they are not following what the Bible says. And it bugs me that so many Christian business owners don't do that. That is wrong. Read Deuteronomy 24:14. That's my suggestion. If you have an owner that claims to be a Christian and they are not good at paying their employees, Deuteronomy 14 or 24:14. Just point them there. And then the individualism, like back then, this would have been a really radical thought. One person goes out, they represent the entire family. They might even represent the entire tribe. And this like group mentality is really, really big. It's that group identity is how a lot of these communities kind of were. And now you have here in verse 16, parents shouldn't be put to death for the sins of their children, and children shouldn't be put to death for the sins of their parents. The individuality that this gave people, just that was not around before. That wouldn't have really been an accepted understanding that you are you and you're a part of this group. Now we kind of overemphasize the individual, and sometimes we can forget about the larger group unless we're angry at the larger group. That group of Christians, that group of this, or that group of Canadians, or people from Switzerland, or Germans, or whatever. We group them all when we're angry, but very rarely do we see individuals and groups. We tend to lean either one way or another, but the reality is, yes, I am Canadian, I am Christian, and I am Jeremy. And I am all three of those and much, much more. Right? So, that individuality coming through is also really, really cool. Then true justice. So don't be corrupt just because someone's from a different land. Don't lie and cheat, and give them true justice to the foreigners living among you. True justice. And then it doubles down time and time and time again. And every time I read, essentially treat the foreigners, the orphans, and the widows. Look out for the foreigners, orphans, and widows. Make sure that the foreigners, orphans, and widows have enough food that, you don't take everything from your tree. You don't take every olive. You don't take every, orange, if you will, or whatever, from your tree. You leave a few so that the poor can have some, so that the foreigner can have some, so that the widow can have some, so that the orphan can eat. And you don't get angry when they come up to your tree or onto your property and they grab something that they need. I did a bit of an incident like that yesterday. A guy that was a drunk came in by the E-Way spin, and he started looking through stuff and was like, God, man, I got to go out there. Because there was some stuff that people dropped off that had been able to be put in the bin yet. And I was like, I don't know if there's personal information on this or what the deal is. It was just like, hey, bud, just so you know, that'll be stealing if you're taking it. He's like, well, sometimes people do that out of necessity. I'm like, if you need something that's small and doesn't have people's personal information on it, that's one thing. Especially before it goes into the bin. But if you're just going to smash it or you're going to try to take someone else's information, I gotta put a stop to that. There is a line. And as we were talking, he was like, yeah, it wasn't a necessity right now, but because the stuff's broken. They're not going to be able to resell it. But it was just that reminder. But then it was like, hey, if you need water, if you need food, if you need this, if you need that, we can hook you up. But if you just want to smash it, you just want to do whatever, that's not okay. So, I tried to do good in this one, and what he needed was a conversation. I feel like he was really ignored, and he had some other hurts that he needed out. So I gave him what he needed. I gave him my time. I gave him my ear. but I didn't let him smash the stuff. And that emotional need for connection is also one of those things that can be really important. So yeah, an area of failure that I talked myself into, like, it wasn't that much of a failure. So yeah, we're going to continue with more miscellaneous regulations tomorrow. And then it looks like some things start to take a bit of a change after tomorrow. So next week we'll be out of this these regulations, but we're in here for one more day. And so what are the big takeaways here? And one of the things I didn't actually say because I got caught up in different things. Looking after orphans and widows is true religion. I wish that he also included foreigners, because this just is quoted time and time and time again. Foreigners, orphans, and widows. Look after them. Care for them. Orphans, foreigners, and widows. True justice. The roles of... I think this section, if I were to say, take the big thing, don't take advantage of people in need. Whether that's, the wife at the beginning, if it's the poor employees, if it's the neighbor as your slave, if it's the orphan or the widow, don't take advantage of people. Instead, find ways to show mercy and love. To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. These are some practical steps for them as they are establishing this new land on how to act that out. Let us pray. AJC, awesome Jesus Christ. I thank you that a way to summarize some of these practical steps as they're getting ready to enter into the promised land is just that, Micah 6:8. To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you. To not take advantage of the poor, to not take advantage of the foreigner, to not take advantage of the orphan, to not take advantage of the widow, to not take advantage of the wife. That you want us to protect them physically and emotionally and spiritually when we are in a position of power and authority where we have overwhelming wealth or overflowing wealth, when we have overflowing emotional quota, when we have overflowing this, may the people that are in need take it. May we be fruit trees that are producing the fruits of the Spirit. And may those in need come and pick from those fruits. Pick of the trees that are us, that are full of your living water, nourishing our trunks and our branches, and producing good fruit within us. Don't know why I went down that metaphor route, but I did, Lord. And I thank you. In Jesus' mighty and powerful name. Amen. All right, guys. Thank you very, very much. Have a fantastic rest of the day. I am off to get my first aid certificate. So I'm going to learn how to do CPR in about 20 minutes. So, yeah. Have a great day. God bless. And please, don't make me try what I'm learning. I never want to use it. But I will if I have to. That's not a threat. That's a promise that I will try to help you if I can. But please don't put me in that position. All right. Have a great day. God bless.